Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Devils podcast. I'm your host, Keane, here this evening. We're here today to talk all things Manchester United. We're going to talk about the latest news, transfer news, obviously match preview for tomorrow's game against Bournemouth, and also the big topic that is Bruno Fernandes and his form for Man United. So do smash the like in the video, do subscribe, and look, always get the bell notifications on, whether it's for the audio pods or on YouTube. We really do appreciate your support. But as always, I'm joined by former Manchester United striker Phil Marsh. Phil, how are you this evening?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Looking forward to having a catch up again. We've not probably spoke for a few weeks
About a
now,
month,
and
yeah.
yeah. So obviously a lot of things have happened in between last time we spoke. So yeah, should be good to have a catch up.
Yeah, it is. It's good to talk United. And it seems like any time we take a break, United play well, they get results. I think, are we bad luck charms, Phil, or is it just coincidence?
Well, yeah, you could say that. I think obviously this last sort of 2 months has been a breath of fresh air. Really, I think everything that could have gone right has gone right. The players playing really well. Um, Obviously, results other than the Newcastle game have all gone really well. So yeah, hopefully that can continue.
Yeah, the results and I'd say the performances for the most part have been really good since Newcastle. Well, since before Newcastle. I think the football just in general going from a 3-4-3 to a back four has just been a revelation compared to what we had in the first kind of, I suppose, year and a half of Ruben Amorim. But before we kind of dive into talking about, I suppose, our form and so tomorrow's game and kind of talking about Bruno Fernandes, obviously you're scouting at the moment, so your kind of role in football has actually changed, I suppose, dramatically in the last kind of couple of months. A lot of talk about, I suppose, United's youngsters has been ripe at the moment. And a lot of the big players coming through. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Lacey and the Fletcher brothers getting through into the first team squad now. You in particular have been watching the under 18s in the FAU Cup, especially as part of your job now. How are the young lads getting on? And I know there's obviously huge hype about JJ Gabriel, especially, and Carrick is even getting asked about him in the press conference. How's it been like kind of being in around the youth setup again? Obviously, it's a throwback to your days at United.
Yeah, no, it's been really enjoyable. As I say, it's something different to sort of what I've been used to in the last couple of years. Obviously, since I've retired. But yeah, no, something I've really enjoyed. I've watched sort of 3 or 4 games now at Carrington and obviously last night at the at Old Trafford in the Youth Cup. So it's been good. Obviously, watching some of the players and obviously relaying back to the time I was in the academy and playing in the Youth Cup and yeah, it's been really good. Obviously, the talent that in the under 18s at the moment is really good, especially in the attacking positions. A lot of the front players are sort of, performing really well. They're scoring a lot of goals. There's, a lot of really good link up play. And obviously, there's a few on the radar. Carrick's been at every game I've been to myself. So it's good to see that, he's showing an interest in, some of these young players and giving them that sort of carrot that they're maybe not that far away, and some of them obviously will be training with the first team as well. So yeah, it's been really good. Obviously, a good win last night in the quarter final against Sunderland, who were good as well on the night. They played really well. So yeah, obviously, it's promising times at the moment for some of the youngsters, and hopefully, I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 of them I'll get a taste of first team football next season.
Who are the ones in particular you're looking at who maybe could make the jump next year?
Well, obviously, the main one for me would be Gabriel. I think he's, even though he's probably the youngest, he is the youngest in that team at the moment. I think he's been the most influential. Every game I've been to, he's been probably the best player. He's got the X factor. He's doing things that for a 15-year-old is not normal. He's sort of running, controlling games. He's scoring. He's assisting. And he's having a massive impact on games. Albeit he was a little bit quiet last night. He didn't probably perform as well as he has been doing in the league, if you like. But still, had a half decent game, and he's definitely one. I think that some of the first team management and staff will be looking at for next season to try and maybe give a little bit of game time. It was funny actually because I was there, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago against Derby, and I was just stood obviously watching the game, and I got speaking to the guy who stood at the side of me, and I'd never met the guy before, and it turned out he was the head of recruitment for Marseille. And he was there obviously watching this Gabriel, and he basically said to me like because De Zerbi had just been sacked, I think not long before that, the new manager came in from Rennes, and he was obviously looking at a different way of playing and wanted some young, fresh, exciting talent. But he said I think he thinks Barcelona and a few other clubs had already been sniffing around this Gabriel fella. So yeah, it's obviously vital probably for Man United that they can secure his contract for when he sort of turns professional at maybe 16, 17, and then give him some game time next year, because I think he's definitely one who's going to be an exceptional talent and a player.
Yeah, he looks really, really good. I watched his goal. I don't know, was it the Liverpool game or was it another game a couple of weeks ago? The way he just spun the player and just put it into the roof of the net was like, at 15 years of age, it's ridiculous how good he actually is. And then you've Rooney's young lad there as well that's coming through as well.
Yeah, yeah. He's sort of not really started many games in the last couple of months when I've been watching, but he's always sort of come on and had a bit of an impact on the game, and obviously he's still quite young as well himself, so there's no real rush in terms of him wanting to be starting, because he's obviously playing a couple of years up anyway. But yeah, he's looked good as well. I mean, a lot of the attacking players, I forget the name of the lad now. Is it Nathan on the wing? He played number 11 last night in the Youth Cup. He's about 6'2". He's strong as an ox. He can dribble with the ball. He scored the first goal last night. His name's just eluded me at the moment, which it shouldn't really, because I've watched him the last 4 weeks. But
The comment section will definitely correct us anyway, I'd say, at some point.
yeah. But yeah, he's been again another one who I think Carrick's been sort of watching closely, because I think physically as well, he looks like he's ready to maybe take that step up, because usually, you see a wide player who's really tall and strong. They don't really have the technical ability to be able to manipulate the ball and dribble and all that kind of thing. But to me, when I've watched him, he looks like he can do a bit of everything. And he scored goals from 30 yards out. He's dribbled and scored goals where he's beat 3 or 4 players, and he's also been creating goals as well. So yeah, it's, as I say, they're flying at the moment, and obviously in a good run of form. So I think they've got Crystal Palace now in the semi-final. I was sat with Ian Dowie last night, who funny enough, he's the scout for Crystal Palace now. He was sort of taking notes last night at the side of me. Obviously that's who United, obviously youth team now, are going to play in the semi-final. So should be a good test. I was asking a little bit. I've never seen Palace, obviously, in the under-18 level, so I was asking a little bit about what they're like, and he said they've got some obviously good talent coming up as well. So should be a good game.
A couple of the Irish lads as well are coming through the Palace setup as well. Jaden Numa was actually in there under 18s. He's gone on loan to Benfica now. As well, so there's loads of good like UK based players that are coming through Crystal Palace, where you even see their youth system with some of the young players that have come through in the last kind of 5-6 years. They'll be really strong. That'll be a test with lads. It will be. But look, United have a rich tradition in the EU Cup, and we often do well. So yeah, I'd say we have a chance this year, 100%. Obviously, it's great to see the youth team progressing in cups, but the first team only have the bread and butter, which is the league. Obviously, we talked off air briefly that obviously it's been refreshing watching United, I suppose, post Ruben Amorim. Obviously, we had a good string of results up until Newcastle. What do you think of Sunday against Villa? Because that was obviously a big game in our season. I think obviously a fellow, I suppose, top 4. Obviously, Villa aren't a rival club, but they're a top 4 rival for the Champions League. And obviously, they have a very good manager and a very good team. What do you make of our performance on Sunday, and I suppose the result in general?
No, I think obviously we spoke off air. I think, since Carrick's come in, he's gone back to basics. He's gone back to a back four, which I think has transformed the team massively. I just think we look so much more balanced. The sort of fluidity within the team. Having Mainu in that midfield with Casemiro's just made him look 10 times better. I think he's obviously got a bit more legs around him now. He's not getting as exposed. Bruno's in the form of his life. He's creating chance after chance, and we've got forwards at the minute who are putting the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, it's been really good. And I think the one thing I've really sort of noticed and sort of been happy about is in little moments of adversity, like obviously against Villa the other day, going back, getting set back to a 1-1. You think in previous times that could have been a massive turning point in the game and we could have, folded and maybe, lost that game or, gone away with a point. But I just think we've got a lot more control now and sort of everybody still feels as though, they've got enough ability and the quality's going to, finally shine through at some point in the game. And I think that's what happened. I think even the Newcastle result, obviously, Newcastle played really well on the day and we didn't really play well, but again,
Tonali was a monster, weren't he, in that game?
yeah. I think Newcastle's a tough team. When you go to Newcastle away, you know what it's going to be like. It's going to be frantic. They're going to press. They're going to, the fans are going to be right up for it. We probably could have got away with a point. They scored in the last minute, and that wouldn't have been a bad result because we didn't play well. But I think the good thing is, we didn't let that result sort of, turn into 3 or 4 bad results like we did under Amarin. I think it had a knock-on effect. The confidence would be, completely drained from the players. Whereas now, every time we concede or, obviously we lose a game or whatever it is, it seems to me as though they just reset and they go again and they've got that belief in everything that probably Carrick's sort of instilling into them now. And as I say, it helps massively the formation for me, getting that right and making sure you've got the right personnel in the team. You've got a nice balance. You've got people making little partnerships. You've got that consistency in the lineup, and I think obviously at the moment the team's sort of picking itself. And we've got players as well who can come on off the bench and make a big impact if that's needed. And obviously in games in recent times, we've seen the likes of Sesko who's come on and had impacts off the bench, which is great as a forward. Coming on, proving a point, getting on the score sheet, and sort of giving the manager a bit of a headache.
You mentioned obviously giving the manager a headache. Benjamin Sesko has been in fantastic form. I'd say predating to when Darren Fletcher came in as interim first team coach, to now he's been good goal scoring form. But not only that, like his link up play and stuff like that has really come on since Ruben Amorim has left. Now I don't know is it the fact there's a system change and the attacking players are closer to him and doing things like that, has that helped? But when you look at his form, Phil, obviously a portion of his goals have come off the bench rather than obviously starting as well. Where are you at with him? Because obviously he's a very good young striker. He looks like he is developing as the season's going on, which is showing very promising signs. But I suppose with the amount of money we pay for him, with the volume of goals he's scoring, is he too good to be on the bench?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think it's a bit of it's a strange one. I think obviously he's opting for Embuemo down the middle at this moment in time in most of the games. I think in a lot of his press conferences, he has alluded to, depending on who we're playing, he may change that and obviously shuffle the pack. But I think because at the moment the team's playing well, the results are going well. Everything sort of seems to be running smoothly, if you like. And for him personally, I can imagine him being a little bit frustrated maybe with not starting. Um, but again, I think sometimes, as a striker, when you're not in the team, the only thing you can do is when you're called upon or when you come on, you've got the right attitude, you have an impact on the game, you score, and you just keep knocking on the door and give the manager a headache, and hopefully at some point, you'll get your opportunity to sort of start games and come in and try and keep your shirt. I think at this moment in time for me, he's probably gonna stick with what's been working. I don't think he's gonna make many changes, if any, in the next couple of games, definitely, unless something dramatic happens or there's injuries. But yeah, I think he'll feel maybe a little bit hard done to, and obviously, he's come with a big price tag, and um, he will want to obviously be starting games, but I wouldn't, get too upset and downbeat. I don't think he's in a position at the moment where he's out of the team because he's not playing well. He's just out of the team at the moment because we've sort of turned a corner massively. We're in a good run of form. The winning games, players are all playing well, um, and it might just take something uh, small like an injury to somebody, or it might be something that a manager sees in a different opponent where he thinks he might be better to start. And if he takes his chance and does really well, then I think it'd be really hard to sort of leave him out the team. But yeah, if I'm him, you obviously want to start games. Like every player wants to play every single game, but I don't think at this moment in time he's going to be too upset, because I think he can probably see the bigger picture, and hopefully, as I say, in football things can change in a split second. So I'm pretty sure he will get opportunities between now and the end of the season to start games and sort of cement his place and look forward to hopefully next season, where we're probably going to need a bit of a bigger squad when hopefully we're in Champions League and different competitions where we are going to need that strength in depth. So yeah.
Yeah, like I look at him, I think he's in good form, and I look at how Carrick is set up in certain games where we're playing against teams who are playing a bit of a higher line, so he kind of goes with Mbeumo, Ahmad, and Cunha, or Dorgu as it was before his injury. To hit teams on the break, obviously get Bruno on the ball to play in behind, and then having Mbeumo getting onto the end of things. And then against teams with a lower block, I've seen when we brought on Sesko, it's actually helped us, because against the lower blocks, if we started in Wemo, it was tough to kind of break teams down. But then we bring Sesko on, we're putting crosses into the box. Against these teams who are playing deep. So I think the fact that we're after switching to kind of I suppose having four players up front, if you're kind of including Bruno and kind of behind them, then having Sesko or Bremo, and when we had Dorgu, then we had Cunha out on the left. We had two types of different options, and then Ahmad and Bremo as the right wingers. We had a bit of depth. I think having Sesko scoring goals is good. I think having Mbeumo, albeit maybe if some of Mbeumo's performances, I know we've been getting results, but I think there's times where I feel you can probably attest this as a forward. Sometimes the game, he's not in the game sometimes in Mbeumo, in terms of getting involved and getting amongst things, but he still has end product in a way. So he's making up for it that way. So I like the fact that we have players who can, especially now we've a new formation. It's not rocket science, the formation, don't get me wrong. But the fact we're playing a formation that I suppose plays to these players' strengths, it's good to see that Carrick can make tactical alterations during games. Like I said, against a high line, putting Buemo through the middle, or against a low block, have Sesko in there. Or even he's done it in games where he's brought Xerxes in a 10 role and have him behind Sesko as well. He's done that one or two times in a game as well. And Mount has been injured as well, I suppose, for the majority of Carrick's time as well. He's back now. So I like the fact that we've strengthened depth, and I like the fact that we're not predictable in a way that it's just one player up front. It's like 3-4-3. You know the system. You know who's going to be starting. Whereas with the fact that Sesko's in form, obviously Cunha's hitting form, Bruno, we'll get to him in a minute. All these players can pop up in these different positions that teams can sort of prepare for us, but they can't prepare for us as much as they could under Ruben, if you get what I mean.
No, I think you're right, and I think it's obviously refreshing for us as a club at the moment, because we've got so many players that are playing well. It's obviously there's a lot of competition for places, and it feels a lot healthier in terms of where we are. I know we had a lot of injuries, under Hammering, and there was a lot of players that were sort of missing at crucial times. But I think at this moment in time, it's been massive to sort of have Maguire back in the team, leading, having that strong spine throughout the team. And, we've sort of seen, the difference in performance, not just from sort of the formation. I think, having the likes of Mainu come back into the team, who was, never really playing under Amarin, and yeah, you can see how that's rubbed off on the players around him. Casemiro's been a revelation in the second part of the season. Scoring goals, his energy levels, just his all round game really has been brilliant. And obviously that's give Bruno a little bit more space and sort of enabled him to have that little bit more freedom in that attacking position where he's picking balls up and he's like threading balls through for fun. He's just playing some amazing football at the moment. And as a striker, as a winger or a striker at the moment, you must be rubbing your hands going into games thinking, there's going to be chances galore today because we've got players who can, pick passes and, find us when we're making runs. So yeah, as I say, it's really good at the moment, and hopefully long may that continue because, as I say, next season, if we do finish in the top four, which I'd be very shocked now if we don't with the way that things are going. We're going to need that squad and strength in depth, and obviously we're going to be competing on all fronts. Hopefully next season, and going hopefully to try and carry on the form that we've shown in this second part of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like having these players in form at a crucial time is so good. And I think having the depth there as well, and like you said, reintroducing the likes of Kobe Mano into the team, even the likes of Harry Maguire coming back, I think has been very important in terms of making us really solid at the back. Iriola said today that United have been the best team in the league in the last couple of months.
Mm.
I tend to probably agree with that. Obviously, alongside Arsenal, I think I have my opinions on what Arsenal, how they play the game, but
They're
they've
just
been
efficient, aren't they? I think Arsenal are more
they're
just
efficient. Yeah,
efficient at what they do, and obviously, I think in terms of if you're a neutral and you're watching a game of football, I think if you've watched United in the last 5-6 weeks, some of the football we've played, some of the goals we've scored, the sort of balance of the team is just it's just so much better compared to where it was. I think you'd probably say I'd probably watch Man United over Arsenal at the moment, but Arsenal are just really
yeah,
good at what they do. The solid at the back, the sort of you know as I said, they're just efficient at everything they do, and obviously they're really good at set pieces and quite good on the
diving.
counter.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's been great. As I say, it's been great. I think as a United supporter, we've been waiting for this sort of style of football and this sort of just not even so much the results, mate. It's just more about the performances. You want to go to Old Trafford and you want to watch good performances, players taking risks, players expressing themselves, not being afraid of making mistakes and just being negative and not having the sort of balls to go out there and do what you should be able to do as a Man United player, which is take the ball by the horns and go and win a game of football and do it in the right way and play a good brand of football. So yeah, as I say, it's been a great couple of weeks, and hopefully that can carry on till the end of the season.
yeah. Touch wood, man. I really hope we qualify for Champions League because I think for me next year, I think I really want to be going back to Champions League games at Old Trafford again. Do you know what I mean? It's not like hearing that music at Old Trafford, and especially this new league phase, it'd be
Yeah,
brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I think it'd be exciting to see us back in it
yeah, hundred
because like
percent.
you look even like the group stage, the league phase, there'd be so many big games we could have at Old Trafford next season.
Mm.
And it'd be good for us to see and also be like not beating our own trumpet here, but we belong there. We don't
Yeah,
belong in the Europa League
100%.
or the Conference League
Yeah,
or anything like that.
and I think it'd be a good test as well. In terms of because obviously we've come a long way in terms of the performance and I think the balance of the team and various different things. But I think that would be a really good test in terms of back competing on all fronts, playing in the Champions League against some of Europe's elite, and just seeing where we're at against some of these bigger teams. Because obviously you've seen Spurs; they finished fourth, didn't they, in the Champions League, which is crazy to think. And then obviously the fighting relegation in the Premier League. So
And even that as well, apart from like I watched the Spurs game last night. If Kingski didn't have the game he had, they probably would have went through.
yeah, so it just shows that on your day and a different sort of style of football, sometimes it doesn't go the way you think. And obviously for me at the moment, you exclude your PSGs and Bayern Munich's maybe and Barca and Madrid. I think the English teams are sort of dominating Europe, if you like. Obviously, I know Chelsea's been dumped out pretty convincingly there, but a lot of the English teams have sort of done really well recently. So I think it'd be good for United to be back in there and obviously competing against some of these teams. And let's see where we're at.
Yeah, and I think it's like to have that back in there. I think even for the transfer window in the summer as well, it'd be huge having that Champions League money in there as well to obviously Boy could replace him with Casemiro because obviously he announced he's leaving. As well, I think having Champions League money would be huge. Not only just I suppose to have the money to buy the player, but to attract best in class. Like today, we're linked to Bruno Fernandes from Newcastle today, and also Sandro Tonali as well. So
Yeah,
it's either one of the two of them that we're potentially going to go in for because Elliot Anderson's obviously off to Man City. So if we get
I'd love
Champions League,
Tonali.
we
I'd
can
love
entice them.
Tonali. Is Casemiro a definite no? Is he like 100%?
He announced that he's leaving, but like the players are begging him to stay, the fans are begging him to stay. Maybe he pulls a Kevin Nash on it on the last day of the season and says, "Yeah, I'm not leaving" or something. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
He would be a great, but I mean, if he was to go, obviously wish him well, and he's been a good servant and he's been fantastic, especially this second half of the season. But a Tonali or someone like that would be top replacement for me. I think if you can get him from Newcastle, then he would be a brilliant addition to sort of the club, because I know we mentioned that Belieber and a few of the other players maybe 6 to 12 months ago in terms of, he would be, somebody who, we would like. But yeah, for me, any of them two from Newcastle, they'd be ideal.
I'd probably say Tonali because he's slightly younger. I think when you look at the fee Newcastle are looking for Gomes is 80 million euros and he's 29. So we're basically replacing Casemiro with another like a younger.
Yeah. What's Tonali?
Younger.
Is Tonali like 27, 26?
Tonali's 27, I believe.
27.
Chat guys in the chat, let us know. I think he's 27, whereas Gomes is 29. If you're spending like, I suppose it'd probably be a similar fee for Tonali as well. I'd probably prefer Tonali, just again age profile, and also I think the type of engine he is in midfield. I think that's what we need. I think we need a proper engine in there who can get up and down, break things up. I think he's a more polished version of what we had in Scott McTominay. And I think like he's better on the ball. Obviously, I think McTominay is a better goal scorer. I think we probably misprofiled him. But the way we had McTominay as a box to box midfielder, I think Tonali would be a way more polished version than that. AP7 says without Bruno last year, we'd be trying to get into the Premier League this season. Yeah, probably. But speaking on the great man himself, he's obviously like I think even playing from a deeper position this year, Phil, he's been in fantastic form. There's obviously shouts for him now, and there's been a lot of positive PR from even non-Man United folk in the last week or so. People are saying Bruno Fernandes should be an PFA Player of the Year this season. Obviously, you have your Declan Rice and Gabriel's who would probably turn around and be like, maybe it should be me. But where are you on him this season? Do you think he deserves the Player of the Year shout? And where does he rank this season for the best players in the world this season for you?
Oh, he's definitely in for a shout, like 100%. He's got to be shortlisted and definitely in consideration. I think basically, in a nutshell, I don't want to make it long-winded, but I think I'm right in saying he's 4 assists off breaking the record or equaling the record. For me, if he equals or surpasses that record, he gets it. He gets it. I think that just comes with the territory. I think if you have a season where you're making the amount of assists that he's done and the performances that he's put in, and obviously United's had a fantastic start. Second half to the season, and we finish in a Champions League place. Looking at where we was to sort of the way we finished the season, I think, yeah, for me that would be a shoe in really for Bruno to get it if he breaks the record. Now, if he doesn't break the record but carries on with the form and Arsenal win the league, you've got a bit of a conundrum there because the likely winner usually comes from the team that wins the Premier League. So yeah, it's just depends on how that plays out really for me. But he's been exceptional this year. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Said before,
Yeah,
if you're a centre forward, if you're a striker, and you've got someone like Bruno behind you at this moment in time, you're rubbing your hands. You just it's a striker's paradise. Having balls played through like he's been playing through, and the weight of the pass is just perfect. Um, his set pieces are on the money. More times than not, which is great for people who's getting in the box. Um, and yeah, I mean, sometimes as any player, you go through purple patches where everything you touch turns to gold. As a striker, everything you hit, your scruffy goals go in and comes in off your shit. And I think Bruno's in that moment where, at the moment, he's putting balls into the box. He's not necessarily picking players out. Sometimes he's just putting balls in areas. People are getting on the end of him, and that's a sign of a great player. I think obviously his quality's there for everyone to see. He's always been a fantastic player, but I think because at the moment, I've mentioned it a few times now, but the team just looks so much more balanced. I think it's basically just benefited him tenfold. And as I say, when you're playing with confidence, when the team's playing with confidence, when you've got players in form, that's the kind of things that can happen. And as I say, if he carries on doing what he's doing, I'm sure he will at least equal the record of assists. And I hope he breaks it because he deserves it. I think, when you look at the names who's, done it as well, like obviously De Bruyne has been an amazing player, and Thierry Henry, who was, more of a goal scorer, but yeah, absolutely, unbelievable player and probably Premier League's greatest ever player. So yeah, to eclipse them two, take your hat off to that, and you can't really do much more than that. So I'm hoping he can do it, and I say if he does that, I think he'll definitely get it.
I think even if he gets close to it, I think he should get it. But I'd understand if he doesn't, because if
Yeah,
Arsenal win the league, their first league in 22 years, Declan Rice, I think, will get it.
yeah.
I
That's
personally
that's
would,
that's yeah. That's basically what I was saying. I think if he
yeah,
doesn't, then he'll definitely get it. I think if he just falls short, or maybe, I mean, if he equals it, he's for me, he should get it. If
yeah,
he just falls short, I can sort of see why he might not get it. But he's still had a unbelievable season. And if you put that into context, in terms of, I mean, I don't know the stats, but if you look at sort of his output maybe from sort of Christmas to now, and then you look at that before, because obviously under Amarin, he's still creating goals and scoring and doing a lot of things that was great. But I think in terms of since Carrick's came in, I think his output's just probably gone through the roof in terms of like goals to games ratio and assists to games ratio. He's probably you know on track to have been like obliterating the record if he'd have started the season like that. So yeah, when you look at it like that, I think to be able to turn something round so quickly and have players who can just slot straight into a new style of play and be expressing themselves the way he has. It's been brilliant to watch, really.
yeah, he's been a revelation this season. And even like when he was playing from deep, he was still playing well and still getting assists. Now, I know, obviously, the large majority of his assists have come since like October to now, but
Mm.
even still, to have that season and considering the form we were in beforehand, before Carrick came in, is unbelievable. And I said this to a friend the other day. I think the only midfielder in world football that talks to him now is Pedri this season. I think numbers wise, performance wise, I think obviously you have your Judes, but he's been injured. I think Camavinga's been injured. Tchouameni's obviously been in and out of the team. I think if you look across the Premier League, I think from an all-round footballing perspective, maybe Declan Rice can wiggle his way into a conversation. But I think you look for like an all-round footballer's perspective. Now I'm including Bruno's stint at deep this season. He was doing a lot of defending,
Yeah,
and a lot of creating chances from that area. I think Pedri for me is probably the only one. And you may disagree with this. I think the only one who chats him on form this season from a midfielder's perspective.
The only other one I've really enjoyed watching this year, and he's not necessarily an attacking midfielder, and he doesn't really create, but Vitinha from PSG. I think
Yeah.
he's a different type of player, but just on the ball, so smooth and silky, and just the way he sort of dictates games, he's a fantastic player. But yeah, in terms of the more attacking and creating, Pedri for Barca has been, he's unbelievable as well. I think you have that style of play what Barcelona play, and I think he sort of fits that mold of like a Iniesta sort of type player where he can tight situations. He's great with the ball. He can move off both feet. But yeah, no, I mean Bruno this year, he's definitely been I'd say he's definitely in the top three across Europe in terms of performances in his position. You could maybe say there's two or three, and he'd definitely be one of them who would be up there for contender of player of the season. No doubt about that.
Yeah, I think even Caicedo was there as well, but I think in the last kind of couple of months, his form
Just
has
dropped
tailored
off.
off. Yeah, it's dropped off.
Chelsea's dropped off. Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I think Caicedo would have been up there because I thought at one point there was talk about him and Rice as being the best in the league. But then I think Rice has stayed consistent, whereas I think Caicedo's kind of
Do you know what
petered off.
separates Bruno, I think, as well, which and you could probably say this for a few of the other players as well, but the thing with Bruno is he's always available. Like, he's never injured. He's never, never doesn't want to play. He wants to play every single game, every minute of every game. And I think as a footballer, being available and being fit and being, on the team sheet is the biggest battle, really, because if you're in and out of the team, or you injury prone, or you this, that, and the other, you're never gonna be able to be in the sort of conversations we're on about being the player of the season. And because if you're not influencing games weekly, then there's no way you can sort of be in that kind of a conversation. I think that's one of his biggest strengths, really, since he signed for United. I mean, he's probably missed, I'd say, counting one hand, how many games he's missed in the full time he's been at the club. So that speaks
He done
volumes.
his hamstring. He done his hamstring against Villa before Christmas, and he was back a couple of weeks. No, so a couple of weeks later he was back.
Yeah. So he missed what, maybe 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I say, and that speaks volumes to me about his character. The way he sort of is passionate about playing the game, and he always wants to even and again, this is sort of let's not beat around the bush. At times, players probably didn't want to go out and play for Man United because of how bad we was playing, because of the pressure the teams were under, because of the confidence levels that was probably in and around the team when we was at the all-time lows in previous times. So he's never shirked that responsibility. He's always gone out there. He's always tried his best, and now we're seeing the sort of fruits of that. And as I say, because everyone's in a good moment, the team looks a lot more balanced. The spirit in the team looks good, and everything's just going really well. He's sort of reveling in that, and sort of making the most of it, if you like.
Yeah, he is, and I think look, he's been world class he's been world class this whole time at United. But I think this season has been his. I think for me, obviously 2021, his numbers were off the scale, But I think and I've been saying this some other seasons, that season
Yeah,
has been the most complete version. But damn, this season has been the most complete version of Bruno
yeah,
Fernandes, I think, by a country mile. Phil, obviously, you would have played, and you would have played with many United players who were in obviously iconic United teams. Rooney was asked about this say on the overlap, alongside obviously Roy Keane and Gary Neville. I think everyone can agree Bruno's not in an all-time Man United 11. I think we've done our all-time 11s
yeah.
on this channel a couple of years ago. Actually, go back and check it out if you'd like. It's back in the archives. But I suppose I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I like, again, comments may slaughter me here. I likened Bruno to be like kind of a modern day Brian Robson. So I think obviously Brian Robson played in the United teams for a long time that didn't win the biggest trophies. Obviously, latter end of his career, he did win big trophies. I say he's not obviously as big as a club legend as him. Brian Robson's Brian Robson. But I said if I was a player who I could look at the past that I'd compare Bruno to, would probably be him. Where would you rank Bruno as, I suppose, in his status as a player of the club? Would you rank him as club legend, club great? Do you think it's relative? Is he a club legend, I suppose, relative to his period of time and his era? Like, where would you, I suppose, hold Bruno in regard as compares to your ex teammates and other players you would have seen play for United down the years?
Yeah, I mean, the probably the biggest compliment I can pay him is he's 100% the best signing Man United have probably made in the last decade. I think his output, as I say, his availability, the way he's been, he's sort of the only thing I think that's maybe not tarnished, but maybe not going in his favour is because when I think back to some of the players I played with and the era I played in, when I sort of try and look at the overall package, Bruno probably just hasn't won enough trophies in terms of when you look at some of the other players he's sort of maybe competing against in the kind of status of legendary or whatever. But yeah, I mean, 100%, he's definitely going to be going down as a Man United legend because, as I say, he's sort of brilliant with the fans. He's sort of a fantastic player, which is the most important thing. He's always available. He's the captain at times. He's sort of somebody who's really passionate. He's sort of, I think, in the last 6-12 months, he's sort of tailored his. We spoke about him a few times in previous years about his attitude and his whinging, and he's maybe sometimes like spitting his dummy out and stuff like that. I think not really seen any of that this season as such. He's still quite animated at times and he gets frustrated, which is fine because as a footballer sometimes you want better from your teammates or you're frustrated with yourself, and that's completely fine. I think, as I say, Bruno for me, because of so many players we've had who've been exceptional and they've won numerous league titles, numerous Champions Leagues, FA Cups, the only thing really, is he's not maybe won enough trophies for some people. In some people's eyes, winning trophies and stuff might not come into the equation. It might just be purely on ability and football. But for me, I always look at it as a complete package, and I think, was the available all the time? Did the have the ability to control football matches? Was the a game changer? Did they win trophies? Would they score goals? Would they assist? And he ticks a lot of them boxes. Definitely, he does. The only thing maybe he's lacking a little bit compared to some of the others is the silverware,
The
which.
two big ones, isn't it? The league and the Champions
Yeah,
League.
yeah, and I think, to be fair, you can look at that one or two ways. Obviously, the time I was at the club, United were on top of the Premier League. They was winning it, more or less every year. The quality within the squad was internationals in every position. You had internationals playing in the reserves with me who couldn't even get a game. So
Like
it's
I remember we were talking like when I was in Manchester with you, and you were talking about like so Gerard Piqué and Giuseppe Rossi, players like that were in your
yeah,
squad. Like so
yeah.
Ollie was in your squad as well at times.
Louis Saha, people like that.
Yeah,
Lads who they're international players, and they'd walk into at the time they'd walk into 95% of any other Premier League first team. They couldn't get a game at Man United at the time because you've got Wayne Rooney, you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy, you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, um, and
like
it,
Piqué was in your squad right behind Rio and Vidic.
yeah,
Imagine that.
yeah, and he didn't get a sniff really, and when he did. Um, he couldn't really deal with the physicality of the English game. And that's nothing against PK because he's an absolutely amazing one of the best centre backs in Europe that's played the game. So maybe going back to Barcelona and playing in the Spain, the style of football suited him, and over time it was proven to be right because at Barcelona, the physicality in Spain isn't what it is in England. And because he was technically so much better, probably than a lot of the players in England, he didn't get the opportunity maybe to express himself like he did at Barca. He used to step out of defence, play them balls into Busquets and Xavi and Iniesta. And, he looked like a Rolls Royce at centre half, which, he couldn't do that in England because it's a different game. Centre forwards would be flying tackles in and elbows flying and all that kind of stuff. It's just sometimes you maybe have to move to get the best out of your skill set. And I think that was obviously proven with PK because again he went on to win you know Euros, World Cups, obviously won the league in Spain and all the other things. So yeah, as I say, the team I played with, it was just a wealth of talent in all areas, whether you was younger players, whether you was like players who couldn't get in the first team. I say the first team was just littered with international superstars, and every single season they would add quality onto that on top of it. So obviously you can imagine for the likes of myself and other lads who are trying to break into the first team, it's nigh impossible to sort of do that because they're just so good. And as I say, it's good in one respect because you get into mix and play with them kind of players and learn. But obviously, from your point of view as a player who wants to try and progress and get into the first team, it's going to be a tough gig to try and do that. So yeah, obviously a different era, and as I say, that's maybe another thing that's hindered Bruno because I think sometimes you look at some of the players that he's played with over his time at Man United, and you think he's still been racking up really good figures and numbers each season, and he's not had that much quality around him, and he's still so maybe put him into that group that I played with, and he might have even been even better than what he's showing now because when
Imagine
you
Keane
play
and
with
Scholes behind him with Rooney in front of him.
well yeah exactly. I think if if you're a fantastic player, you can only do so much. If you've got fantastic players around you as well, there's no way that you can't improve. It's impossible. Like if you dropped someone like Messi or Ronaldo prime into a bang average team, yeah, they'd still look good, but they wouldn't look as good as what they've looked in the teams they've played for because they wouldn't have the service, they wouldn't have the players who could read the passes that they're gonna make, they wouldn't have the quality of service that they would need to sort of produce what they can do. And again, it's all about timing. Bruno's come into the club, and we've been in a period where we've really struggled, and not been competing for titles, and been miles off it, and managers have been coming in and then getting sacked, and I'm hoping now, because he's probably not got loads of years left, in terms of where he's going to be at his top level, that this next couple of seasons we can really keep building to the squad and have a good season where we're sort of competing on all fronts, and maybe just win a little bit of silverware because I think he's one player that certainly deserves that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he definitely has club legend status, like you said. I think regardless of what happens between now and when he ends, when he leaves, which I'd imagine will be in the next 18 months, 2 years maybe.
Mm.
He has that. But I said this last week. I said no one post Fergie deserves a title more than him.
Mm.
I'd love us to be in a position where if we get this summer right to go for the league next year, I'd love us to be in the position like that. And even Billy has a comment here. We're going to get to the Bournemouth game because look, I understand we have to wrap up soon. But even Billy says it here. If we'd won that Europa League under Roddy, I think the Bruno conversation is different. But without Bruno, Man United last season would actually have been fighting relegation. Yeah, we'd be like Spurs last season, I think, this season, if Bruno wasn't in our squad. And yeah, I think he's one of the best in the world. I think he's one like you said, if he was rubbing shoulders with the likes of Keane, Scholes, Rio, Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez, players like that, or even if you look at the '99 team, rubbing shoulders with them, he
Yeah.
wouldn't be out of place. Genuinely, I think that's the biggest compliment to him.
Yeah.
Um,
He would elevate his game 100% because at the moment, no disrespect to some of these other lads, the great players, but I think playing in a team with international superstars and the brand of football that we played at that period, I think he would have been off the scale. Like some of the assists and stuff that he's creating at the moment for some of the players. I think you've got Rooney and Ronaldo running onto them balls, mate. It's a different ball game. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like the one the other day where Sesko goes through and he just scored actually, and then he goes through and he tries to square it for Ahmad. Like Rooney or Ronaldo, they're not squaring that; they're just putting that straight in the
they're,
box.
they're lacing
Do
that like
you know what I mean? That's the
yeah,
difference with sort of being ruthless and, as I say, like no disrespect to any of these lads we've got at the moment, but yeah, put Bruno in that era, and I think would have been it would have been scary.
yeah, it would have been. I absolutely agree. Obviously we United are weirdly on a Friday night against Bournemouth. The Premier League really care about their fans doing a late kickoff against Bournemouth on a Friday night. Um, I think tomorrow's a huge game, Phil, because I obviously rivals drop points the weekend. They've had Europe this week. We're first up.
Mm.
How crucial do you think this is to make a statement, considering, like we said, the way results went our way last week,
Mm.
and now obviously we're first up this weekend, and also our record against Bournemouth is shaky at best at times. What do you make of this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, results have been going our way. Obviously beat Villa last week, who was sort of competing with Chelsea's drop points. Yeah, I think psychologically, especially when you play first, if we can get the 3 points and put them on the board, then yeah, automatically that just puts a little bit more pressure on the teams who are competing with us to try and finish in these Champions League spots. Bournemouth always a tough game away, small ground. I've played there. It's tight. There's not much protection if it's windy. It can be a difficult ground to play at. But as I say, we're in a good spell. We're in a good run of form. Got players who are playing really well. So I'm hoping we can just carry that on, and the momentum will get us through the game. But yeah, as you say, it's a tough game. Bournemouth been a little bit of a bogey team for us in sort of previous seasons. So they're well organised. They play good brand of football. I do actually enjoy watching Bournemouth. So yeah, hoping for a good game, and hopefully, as you say, if we can get the 3 points, get them on the board, and let other teams sort of worry about what they need to do, because as I say, if you play first, then you're in a position where teams are fighting for spots, or obviously titles and stuff. It's always good to get the points on the board and give that team then a little bit more added pressure. So yeah, I think it'd be a really good 3 points if you can beat Bournemouth away on the Friday, and then let other teams sort of have to worry about catching us, because I think if we do win that game, you look at the remaining fixtures that we've got. I'd like to think that we'd be pretty much safe in terms of finishing in the top four. I mean, for me, if we can beat Bournemouth this weekend and then carry that run on for a little bit longer. Obviously, we're probably not going to win every single game from now to the end of the season, but we might even end up catching City because
Mm.
City have sort of tailed off a little bit, and they've just crashed out of the Champions League. Obviously, they've got the final against Arsenal, which if they lose that could be
They can really
detrimental.
go on a downward spiral
They
then,
could,
yeah.
they could capitulate. So hopefully, mate, we can just keep going under the radar, picking up points. I mean, even I'd love 3 points, obviously, but even a point against Bournemouth away, and wouldn't be the end of the world, I don't think. But yeah, I'm more than confident enough that we can win that game. And as you say, we've got a lot of players who are in a good moment. So yeah, are we doing predictions or team sheets?
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna get
Yeah,
score predictions there. Now, I'm gonna give Lee a Desmond. I'm just gonna say it straight. I'm giving Lee a Desmond,
yeah, yeah.
a
That's fair.
2-2. Because last time I did that for Lee, didn't he get a draw, but he didn't get the Desmond. So I'm going to give him a Desmond this time, see if it pops up. So Lee's 2-2. I'm going to go personally, I'm going to go 3-1 United
Mm.
tomorrow. What are you thinking? What are you going to go for?
Um, I've got a funny feeling tomorrow. It's gonna be a bit of a goal fest. I don't know why. I think there's gonna be quite a lot of goals tomorrow.
I have a feeling what
Um,
you're going to say.
yeah, I'm gonna go. Originally I had 3-2 in my head, but I'm gonna go. No, in fact, go on. I'll stick 3-2. I'll stay
I
3-2.
had 3-2 typed down. The minute you said
Yeah,
goal fest, it's like he's pulling my 3-2.
yeah. I'm gonna go 3-2. I think I can just sort of see, it being a little bit end to end. As I say, it's a smallish pitch. It's tight. It's conditions can get a bit. I think there's going to be quite a lot of goals tomorrow. I'm going to go 3-2 United. Yeah.
So look, we've all and Lee involuntarily has gone 2-2 as well. So that's our score predictions for tomorrow. Hopefully we get the 3 points, and most importantly, we qualify for the Champions League. But quick little question for you, Phil. You just mentioned if United could catch City, all things going well, this form continues. So I'll give you a two-part quick question. If United finish third or second in the league, should Michael Carrick get the job? Yes or no?
Yes.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult question because I think a lot of people will say, "Oh well, what if next season things," and then you sort of back in that cycle of new manager and da 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 da. But I think to go from where we was under Amarin to the transformation that we've seen in such a short space of time, you know, I mean, I've said this numerous times, but like the way the team's playing, the team spirit looks so much better. The balance, the confidence, the results. I think everything at this moment in time is going really well. The fans' connection with obviously the team and the manager at the moment as well. So everything for me is sort of screaming, give the guy an opportunity, give him a chance. And yeah, just let's see where it takes us. I think if there was a manager that was, you know, out there that was sort of a
Luis
no brainer,
Enrique or something like that.
yeah, like a no brainer, who you could just be like, yeah, he looks like a good fit. He's available. There's not much things in the way to sort of make it tricky to get it over the line, then fair enough. But I think at this moment in time, he can't do much more than what he's done. He literally, he's literally done everything that he probably would have dreamed of and more. Um, in a short space of time, I think he's warranted an opportunity to carry on. And even if that's only on a short term deal, even if they only give him a year, like I'm not expecting him to maybe get like a 5-year contract, but if he sort of gets given a chance to sort of carry on what he started and keep building on what he's doing at the moment, and maybe being given a little bit of money to add to the squad, then yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it is. And I think, like, look, I think if we finish third or second, or even if we finish top four, considering where I suppose, the type of football we're playing and the teams we've beaten, I feel like he deserves a job. And that's just my opinion. And look, unless the only way I think Michael Carrick shouldn't get the job this summer is if Luis Enrique becomes available. Because Tuchel's not available, Ancelotti's not available. Julian Nagelsmann would be another Ruben Amorim, not in terms of like bad football, but it go the exact same way. I'm predicting that right now. I think he's way too open to be playing in the Premier League. And then you look at the other bracket of managers like De Zerbi and all them, they're a bigger risk than Michael Carrick. In my opinion anyway. Yeah. And that's what Billy even agrees with the both of us. The only way Carrick doesn't get it is if he gets Luis Enrique. So yeah, I agree. And I think that's the best way to end that tonight, Phil. I think we're both
I
agreeing.
was gonna say as well, I was gonna be boring with my team selection. I was just basically gonna say I think he keeps the same team. I don't think he makes any changes from the other day. I think at the moment the team's sort of picking itself. There's no real reason to sort of change anything. So yeah, if you was gonna ask, I was gonna be boring anyway and just say the same team.
Yeah, I literally have the same team. I wrote it down before the show, and I was like, yeah, we want the same 11. I think you pick the team that's in form, unless Carrick wants to go rogue and start Manuel Ugarte and a Kobe Manu and do a Ruben on it. But that's definitely not going to happen. But on that note, we will wrap it up there. It's good to end the podcast on a good positive note. And yeah, look, do smash like the video, do subscribe on YouTube as well. And also as well, do subscribe on the audio platforms as well, and give us a follow on like Twitter and Instagram as well, because we obviously post reels and clips and stuff like that up there. So do check that out as well. And also cheers to Phil for coming on this evening as well. As always good to catch up. But on that note, guys, we will see you later.